Good evening, guys. How's it going?
In today's episode, we will uncover some truths and facts about Trump and Kamala in anticipation of the world's most important election.
And joining us in this two-part video, because it's a special one, is Micahistory, a good friend of mine, who, as you can guess, is called Francesco. No, his name is Micah.
Hi guys, glad to be here with y'all.
For those who don't know you, give them a 30-second snapshot of who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a YouTuber. I cover history and politics and demographics. I have three channels for that. One's called Micahistory, that's my main channel. Second one's called The Traditionalist, where I talk about my personal opinion on politics, and I will be uploading there very soon. And then I have Demographia, where I talk all about anthropology and demographics. I would recommend subscribing to all three of those channels, and of course, subscribe to this one as well.
That is great. It is a pleasure to have you here, and without further ado, let's do this.
All right, so everyone, before we start, let's just introduce a bit the structure of this podcast. So we will start out by looking at both Trump and Kamala, and we are going to look at their early life and their political career. Then we are going to dive into their policies, and then we will look at their controversies. And so we'll do this starting with Trump, and then we will do this with Kamala. So let's look at Trump first, and we'll start off with his early life. So Donald Trump was born on the 14th of June, 1946 in New York City as the fourth child of Fred and Mary Ann McLeod. He attended Fordham University in 1964, and 2 years later transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. In 1968, after he graduated, he was employed at his father's real estate company, and 3 years later, he became the president of the company. He attracted public attention in 1978 with the launch of his family's first Manhattan venture, the renovation of the Commodore Hotel, which was reopened in 1980 as the Grand Hyatt Hotel. However, Trump was not that good of a businessman overall, with several properties he purchased filing for bankruptcy. And in 1995, he was forced to default on over $3 billion of bank loans, with most of his properties seized as a result. In 2004, he founded Trump University, a company that sold real estate seminars, but because the use of the word university was illegal under state law, its name was changed to Trump Entrepreneur Initiative. Nevertheless, the state of New York sued Trump $40 million for defrauding his consumers, and this was settled only in 2016. Now, of course, you are most interested in his politics. And in 1987, he actually registered as a Republican, but then changed to being a Democrat in 2001, an independent in 2011, and only became a Republican again in 2012. He announced his candidacy in 2015, and although he was not taken seriously, he rose to the top of opinion polls and became the presumptive Republican nominee in May 2016. In July, he selected Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his running mate, and they were officially nominated at the 2016 Republican National Convention. On the 8th of November, he received 308 pledged electoral votes versus 232 for Hillary Clinton. Although after elector defections on both sides, the official count was 304 to 227. After his inauguration on the 20th of January 2017, he had several policies as president. With the environment, he withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, making the US the only country not to ratify it. With social policies, he barred organizations that provided abortions from receiving federal funding. And after several mass shootings, he also proposed legislation related to guns. Nevertheless, Trump's most well-known domestic policy concerns immigration. On the 27th of January 2017, he signed Executive Order 13769, which suspended admission of refugees for 4 months and denied entry from Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen for 3 months. This resulted in many protests and legal challenges, and this was eventually replaced by a proclamation on the 24th of September that lifted the restrictions on Iraq and Sudan. He famously proposed a border wall with Mexico and to deport millions of legal immigrants, and he criticized birthright citizenship. In 2018, he refused to sign any appropriation bills from Congress unless it allocated $5.6 billion to the border wall, resulting in the federal government partially shutting down for a month, the longest in American history. He also declared a national emergency on the southern border, intending to divert $6.1 billion of funds that Congress had allocated for other purposes. He also appointed 226 judges, including 3 to the Supreme Court, which politically shifted that court to the right. It was during Trump's presidency that COVID broke out, with the first reported case in America happening on the 20th of January. It was declared a public health emergency 11 days later. Trump, as we well know, was quite critical of the World Health Organization's handling of the pandemic, and in July, he withdrew from the organization. He did not believe that the pandemic was as serious as many made it out to be, and would often not wear masks, although he himself got COVID on the 2nd of October. As we all know, of course, he lost the election in 2020. Now, given that tomorrow will be an election day, a quick recap of the main policies advocated by Trump is vital.
Thank you, Micah, and here I come. So, for those who may be still uncertain how to vote, I think this may be helpful. Talking about the main points, since the video is not too long, basically focused on ending inflation. You will focus on ending inflation and making America affordable again. Doing so by unleashing the energy production from all sources, including nuclear, cutting all the regulation costs established during the Biden's administration. And including this point in the Republican manifesto, there is also stopping illegal immigration and restoring peace through strength. Then probably the most controversial and critiqued point is seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Basically, this is a long-standing Trump policy. Apparently, his first priority because it is put as first in his manifesto. And he also leveraged a lot on the support, on the alleged support he has by the Border Patrol. Basically, he wants to secure the border, completing the wall he already started. Then Biden stopped and then continued again. Use advanced technology to monitor and secure the border, and also enforce immigration laws, including penalties, especially for criminals coming in the United States, by invoking also the Alien Enemies Act. And he would like also to start what he calls as the largest deportation program in American history, and thus deporting back to the countries where they're from all illegal migrants. And he would also like to close all sanctuary cities, thus all those cities protecting immigrants and migrants in general coming to the US, as well as putting American workers first in industries. Then again, a great point is building the greatest economy in history. I would like to continue this economic plan, which we already discussed in our first episode in the United States, is probably better than the Biden administration one. I would like to do so by cutting regulation, cutting tax, removing all tax from tips in restaurants, as well as establishing new fair and reciprocal trade deals, especially internationally. And also by producing low-cost energy and championing innovation. In fact, he's a lot in favor of crypto, artificial intelligence, which is not something very shared nowadays. He would like to protect the American workers and farmers from unfair trade. We know that under Trump, under the first Trump's term, we had USMCA, which was a great trade agreement for manufacturers, especially from the car sector. So I would like again to pursue that route, maybe not precisely the USMCA, but still in the same direction, by stopping the outsourcing, turning the United States into a manufacturing superpower, strategically independent from China. For example, by preventing China from buying American real estate and industries, which is something already DeSantis applied in Florida, and obviously saving the American auto industry, which is pretty big. And then he wants to protect seniors, cultivate great K-12 schools leading to great jobs and great lives for young people, especially we can say detaching schools from the woke propaganda or the woke education he's so against, and bring common sense to the government and renew the pillars of American civilization. He wants to rebuild the cities, to clean the cities, especially Washington, D.C., making them safe. So he's totally against the defunding of police, how Kamala wants instead, and we'll talk about it later. He wants to care about veterans, to combat anti-Semitism, and overall restore the American beauty and values.
Finally, there's two macro areas remaining, one of which is, as his website puts it, government of, by, and for the people, which is a callback to the great American saying for the Constitution and overall how America is supposed to be. He, as Ali mentioned, is against the woke propaganda, and he wants to stop the government being weaponized. I'm not sure he can do it because usually all politicians end up in this circle of weaponizing the government, but apparently this is on his one of his main points. Then he wants to dismantle any sort of censorship and protect free speech. He also mentioned protecting, religious liberty, and the whole gist about left-wing gender insanity, in his own words, will be stopped. And then finally, for foreign policy, he really pushed the idea of peace through strength in sort of Reagan terms and way of thinking, which it puts first national interest. And he said he's against the weak foreign policy of Biden, and he wants to end ongoing wars. Ukraine and Israel are the main candidates here. He wants to modernize the military, strengthen alliances, and overall strengthen the capabilities of the economic, military, and diplomatic wings of the U.S. Since, in his own words, America has been declining, and he wants it to go back to stronger terms.
Has been involved in endless controversies, but I will cover just the ones with the most legal consequences. In August 2019, a whistleblower filed a complaint about a phone call between Trump and Zelensky to investigate Joe and his son, Hunter Biden. The whistleblower said that the White House tried to cover up this call, which he says was part of a wider campaign by Trump's administration to withhold aid from Ukraine. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi initiated an impeachment inquiry, and Trump confirmed that he withheld funding from Ukraine. This resulted in the House Judiciary Committee voting to impeach Trump for abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, with all Democrats voting for and all Republicans voting against. This resulted in the House of Representatives impeaching Trump on the 18th of December. Trump ran for re-election in 2020 against Joe Biden, but he lost to Biden, who won 306 electoral college votes to Trump's 232 on the 3rd of November. At 2 a.m. on the 4th, Trump declared victory, and when Biden was declared the winner, Trump claimed that the election had been rigged. He filed many legal challenges which were rejected by most judges. This eventually culminated in the infamous Capitol protest on the 6th of January 2021, where Trump held a rally at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C., while the congressional certification of the results were happening. While he told his supporters to peacefully protest, some of them formed a mob and broke into the U.S. Capitol, causing the evacuation of Congress and leading to 5 deaths and 140 injuries. Due to these actions, on the 11th of January, an article of impeachment charging Trump with incitement of insurrection against the government was introduced to the House, which voted 232 to 197 to impeach him. And on the 13th of February, following a 5-day Senate trial, Trump was acquitted.
Yep, perfect. And that sort of sums it up for Trump. And now moving on to Kamala. Kamala Harris, the first female, Black, and South Asian vice president. Yeah, she has like 33 ethnicities, but that's actually true. She was born on October 20, 1964, in Oakland, California, to immigrant parents. In fact, Kamala is the daughter of Donald J. Harris from Jamaica and the Shyamala Gopalan from India. This confirms, in fact, that she is a multiracial. And however, in a tragic event, Kamala's mom died of breast cancer in 2009, which left a mark on her. She studied at Howard University and UC Hastings College of Law, eventually starting her career in public service as San Francisco's district attorney. Later, as California's Attorney General, she focused on housing rights, criminal justice reforms, and environmental policy. She was then elected in the U.S. Senate in 2016. She advocated for healthcare, immigration reform, and economic equality before becoming vice president in 2021. She's now married to Doug Emhoff and is known for her historic firsts in leadership. Just very quickly, a recap. From 2016, but effectively from 2017 to 2021, she was part, and she is part of the U.S. Senate. She's an attorney general from California. And in July 2024, following his poor performance with Biden in a nationally televised debate with the Republican candidate and former President Donald Trump, Biden abandoned his run-up for president and gave the last months to Harris, and she is now the candidate for the next president of the U.S., obviously against Trump. Then I would say that Ale, you can take on the rest of it.
Yeah, sure. Kamala Harris' national profile rose after a memorable 2012 Democratic National Convention speech. This is a part of politics, obviously, leading to her 2016 Senate win, where she became the first Indian American and second Black woman senator. Known for her strong questioning in hearings, especially with Jeff Sessions and Brett Kavanaugh, she quickly gained influence. Though she initially struggled in her 2020 presidential bid, a strong advocacy on social justice following George Floyd's death helped silence critiques on her record as Attorney General. She is sometimes criticized for her stances on the police back during the BLM riots. Essentially, she supported the funding on the police movement. In any case, later on, Joe Biden selected her as his VP, making her the first Black woman on a major U.S. ticket, and in 2020, the first elected vice president. As vice president, Harris was given key initiatives tackling the root causes of migration from Latin America, with her being called the infamous migration czar, advocating for national voting rights legislation and defending abortion access, which faced restrictions after the 2022 Dobbs ruling. Harris became a prominent advocate for comprehensive reproductive health care, emphasizing abortion rights, and she continued to focus into Biden's 2024 campaign, warning that re-electing Trump could have further threatened abortion access.
Yeah, so I was about to leave this part empty, just like Kamala's site for months, but that would be mean. So here's a quick recap of her policy intentions. So one, there is climate action. Harris has emphasized aggressive climate policies aiming to expand renewable energy, reduce carbon emissions, and push for environmental justice. Two, healthcare. She supports broadening access to healthcare, possibly expanding programs like Medicare or introducing new public options. Three, economic equality. Harris advocates for raising the minimum wage, supporting small businesses, and providing tax relief for working families. Four, education. Her policies often highlight funding for public schools, affordable college options, and vocational training programs. Five, criminal justice reform. As a former prosecutor, Harris promotes reforms to address systemic issues, including bail reform and police accountability measures. Six, immigration. She supports a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, or maybe we should call them illegal aliens, protection for DACA recipients, and humane immigration policies. Seven, gun control. Harris backs stricter gun control laws, including universal background checks and bans on assault weapons. Eight, women's rights. She is a strong advocate for reproductive rights, abortion access, and gender equality, pushing for policies to support women's healthcare and workplace rights. Nine, foreign policy. Harris aims for a balanced foreign policy, focusing on strengthening alliances and addressing global challenges like climate change and security threats. And finally, 10, technology and privacy, because her agenda includes regulating big tech companies, protecting user privacy, and advancing digital infrastructure.
Awesome. So now that we have a general overview of her points, just really quickly, I wanted to mention some of her controversies. Firstly, she has been criticized for her death penalty stance since she opposed it, yet she, in her professional life, let it slide through in California, and that raised questions of her personal life versus her professional stances. Then there was also some inconsistency with her wrongful convictions, since she is said that has indeed convicted someone who wasn't apparently a criminal. So that was also a mishandling of evidence. Then I believe, Ale, we have also other problems with her.
Yeah, basically about the border migration rule. As we said before, she was appointed to address U.S. border migration issue called, again, the migration czar, but her limited public presence on this high-profile issue drew criticism, especially considering the fact that the Biden administration has been doing a horrible job with illegals entering the American soil. And lastly, a shift on abortion and criminal justice reform. Basically, her later advocacy for progressive reforms led some to view her as politically opportunistic, especially on reproductive rights and police reform issues. Kamala Harris' shift in her stance on abortion has been a point of contention. In fact, when she was Attorney General of California, her office defended restriction on abortion rights, However, after the 2022 decision in the Dobbs versus Jackson case, which limited the abortion access and reversed Roe versus Wade, basically she became a prominent advocate for reproductive rights. And obviously critiques followed, and obviously she received critiques also for her police approach, defunding the police, as we already mentioned before.
Right.
All right.
So now we can move on to a little section that we wanted to add, which is election predictions. And then obviously in the part 2 of this video, we'll take more time, like 30 minutes or more, to discuss in depth what we think the next president will be in each category. With that said, Micah, give us some of your predictions for who wins.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Well, this election certainly has been very interesting just because of how close it is. And of course, to some extent, 2016, 2020 were also close, but this is probably the closest I've seen since I've ever been interested in politics. And I think it is still a toss-up right now, at least for me. I remember at the very start, I was thinking for sure Kamala was going to win. And then, of course, they had the attempted assassinations at Trump, which massively boosted his popularity. But then he sort of slowed down. His campaign was losing hype. And so it looked like Kamala was going to win. But then recently, Kamala has had a disastrous interview with Fox News. She is really trying to pander to men. Even a lot of black men now are no longer supporting her because people like her and Obama are seen as pandering too much to them. And of course, the fact that Kamala has been very bad at articulating her positions means that that goes against her. But to be fair, though, Trump also has had many issues because of problematic comments he makes, such as, Haitians eating dogs and cats, or, someone at his rally joking about how Puerto Rico is, an island of trash. Those comments certainly don't help out. As of right now, though, I've seen, at least for the last week, the polls seem to be more in Trump's favor. And so I would say maybe if we were to do a perfect 50-50, I would say maybe there's about 51, 52% chance that Trump wins, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Kamala. I'm not really informed enough about any of the individual states to call them, but I think really this does all boil down to Pennsylvania. And Trump's stunts there recently have made me think I'm a bit more likely to say he would win, but it's still too close to call.
Yeah, I essentially agree with what you said. I was looking at some polls, and I sort of looked at like 5 of them more or less, and I think Pennsylvania will be won by Trump, Michigan by Harris, North Carolina by Trump, Arizona by Trump, Wisconsin by Harris, Nevada by Trump, and Georgia by Trump. This is my understanding as of now. Obviously, it could change. These were the swing states, but if I had to pick, Pennsylvania is probably the most important. Once again, I think it's going to be a nice edge in terms of difference of votes. I am going to predict that there is going to be some fraud, and I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be the Democrats or the Republicans, but I think that we're talking like 1,000, maybe tens of thousands, depends, of votes that will either magically disappear or appear. So they have to be really careful. And in general, I've seen that as of now, again, Kamala is like over by 1% at 48 and Trump at 47. But would that be enough? I'm not sure. Ale, what do you think?
I mean, as you said, guys, it's really a toss-up right now. It's pretty unpredictable. I've seen the other day a scenario probability which says if Trump wins, 23.5% of possibility that Trump wins all the 7 swing states. I think it's a little bit exaggerated. 23.5 as the most possible scenario. I think he will not win all the 7. I think he will win at most 4. Which probably would be enough if those are the right ones. I mean, I hope that something very strange happens, meaning that they reach 269 just to see what will happen. It would be pretty cool to see what happens if they end up in a tie. But my prediction would be, as already Micah said, that Pennsylvania will play the crucial role there, and who wins Pennsylvania wins the election. And at the end, I think that Trump will win, not so largely, but he will win. And with that said, we come to an end of this short episode, which is just the prelude of our commentary on the US elections results, which will be out in the upcoming days. We thank Mike again, and we can't wait to have him back with us in just a few days.
Thanks, guys. I appreciated discussing with you too, and I'm happy to do it again very soon. Also, I will be making a video on Joe Biden on the Traditionalist very soon, so check that out.
Yes, check it out. And once again, thanks. In the meantime, also follow us on our social media, Instagram and LinkedIn, Network Studenti Sicurezza Italiani and SSI, on YouTube, and on our podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, so on and so forth. Remember to check out the new video in the upcoming days, and
See you next
see you
time.
next time.